if I was to predict over the next 5 to 10 years, we will stop using the thumb. We will only use a voice-based interface.
Why India for AI?
Where most countries were wiring themselves for telephony, India didn't do any of that. They just went straight to a wireless infrastructure. So you've got a very rich fundamental capability in India to be able to accept such technologies.
But do you think India is behind the AI race?
AI has been in place for a long period of time. The first time I used AI was in 2000. People would make a call in the context of the United States, mortgage borrowers, and the goal of the AI solution was to predict what question they would ask.
What do you think Wadhwani AI's focus in AI projects or initiatives?
All over the world, technology is always a WIP, work in progress. There is not a single technology I've seen in my 40 years where somebody can sit back and relax and say, I've got it done.
How are these farmers able to, use this technology or use the AI?
We don't charge a rupee for any of our solutions. It is for free. We want to impact the lives of billions of people.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Tech Talks. Today we have with us an industry leader who has 40 years of experience in global applied technology and management. He flew to Switzerland in 1985 and stayed in US and worked for many years. And finally he's back to India and he has an interesting story to tell us why he chose India for AI-driven solutions. So join me in welcoming Mr. Shekar Sivasubramanian, CEO of Wadhwani AI. Hi Shekar.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, sir. So why India for AI?
India offers probably one of the most relevant and exciting contexts for AI as it relates to multiple factors. First of all, the prevalence of a certain mood and readiness within the country to adopt multiple technologies, whether it is IoT, whether it is AI, and whether there are other foundation technologies, along with the commitment and interest across all aspects, the entire ecosystem, to be able to put the foundation layers for technology in India, which means networking, access to an enormous amount of power to be able to allow the common man or the common woman to be able to access technology. You may be aware that India was able to very intelligently jump the wired network. So where most countries were wiring themselves for telephony, India didn't do any of that. They just went straight to a wireless infrastructure. So you've got a very rich fundamental capability in India to be able to accept such technologies. Over and above that, if you really want AI to succeed in a very large context, then you need and you really would welcome an enormous amount of data diversity, which is available in India. Right now, we are at very early stages of it, but the ability to be able to look at multilingual, multicultural, context-centric, powerful solutions, you need the diversity in the underlying population in order to reflect their ideology within AI. Such an environment has what we consider natural protections against bias. The moment you start identifying cultures or identifying situations where you expect a certain somewhat monolithic expression, then whenever there is an outlier, then you start getting worried. But in India, you will not face that problem. A well-implemented AI solution in India is designed to succeed because of its diversity. So this has a huge potential. We're at very early stages of it, but it has a huge potential at a very designed foundation level to be able to do it. The other aspect, which is again going to be very important with AI, is I think if I was to predict over the next 5 to 10 years, we will stop using the thumb. We will only use a voice-based interface.
Yes.
If you want to build meaningful voice-based interfaces, you need to embrace the diversity of expression in the country.
Yes.
AI principles are very clear, but India is the only country that offers this opportunity. If it works in India, it will work in the world. It's as simple as that. So why not go to a place where you have a much higher probability of success?
But do you think India is behind the AI race?
No,
compared to other Western
not really.
countries?
Not really. See, the whole adoption of AI in terms of scaled adoption. So there's two parts in AI. One is, or three parts in AI. One is what happens from a research perspective. And AI has been in place for a long period of time. The first time I used AI was in 2000. I used it 24 years ago. And it had a very intelligent and a very appropriate implementation where we had a situation where people would make a call and in the context of the United States, mortgage borrowers, and the goal of the AI solution was to predict what question they would ask. So this is 24 years ago. So AI has been there for a while. The challenge is it has taken some time for it to start reaching a level of maturity and understanding for adoption. And we are still not there. Around the world, we are not there. You've got AI that is present typically in highly urbanized settings, very refined, very narrow settings. So AI was there, for instance, to predict the next word for a long time in mails, where all of us were labeling. In other words, we were reflecting whether it was right or wrong for years. When the mail would predict, is this the right sentence for you? We would say yes or no. But when you take it away from that context and start looking at it as to how you're going to truly impact society meaningfully, that is not there in the world. That is not there. So there is a small section of the world that understands and enjoys AI. And also some of these may be in the esoteric and upper echelons of expression. What we need AI to do is to make life meaningfully, responsibly, ethically better for every person in the world. That is a different problem. And that problem has not yet been solved. All over the world, technology is always a WIP, work in progress. There is not a single technology I've seen in my 40 years where somebody can sit back and relax and say, I've got it done.
True.
And the reason for that is the technology is built by a set of people in a certain generation with a certain skill set and a certain available set of tools that is reflective of that time. When people come 5 and 10 years later, they'll get intensely critical. They'll say, what is this? Why was this using this thing? That was what was available at the time. So then people start thinking of ways to improve things. So by definition, technology is always a road which is work in progress. And so the ability to coexist in a changing environment and deliver to it is the key to success. And AI is no different. The other aspect of AI which is very important is in rule-based systems, you always have what we call a deterministic answer. It's rule-based, so if a person is over 30 years, go left. If it's less than 30 years, go right. No problem. What's your age? Go left, go right. AI is not like that. AI will be accurate 90%, 95% of the time. What happens in the remaining 5% or the 10%? For that individual, for that instance, the answer is wrong. AI is wrong. How do you work with a software paradigm called AI, which is correct most of the time? That requires you to have humans in the place. It requires you also to release software only in areas where the risk is manageable. You really don't want to try to do something spectacular. So that's the reason, to a very large extent, India is not at all behind. India is totally in its right space. And there is nobody who's spectacularly ahead. There is nobody. It's just that we need to do it. Like I say, it's almost boring work. There's a lot of hype, but the work is actually simple and boring. It's not that complicated.
Yeah. So looking into AI's impact in different industry, for example, agriculture sector, what do you think Wadhwani AI's focus in AI projects or initiatives looking into the agriculture sector?
Sure. So we started, one of our early projects was in agriculture, and we needed to start in one area which we felt may make some sense. So we started doing something in pest management in the crop of cotton. Cotton is a very big cash crop. It's got about 6 million farmers. And the scientific method of identifying pests, and there's a couple of major pests called the pink bollworm and the American bollworm. These are historically, they are very famous pests in cotton. Even in North America, these were eliminated with a lot of difficulty a few years ago. I don't know exactly when, but they were eliminated with a lot of difficulty. PBW and ABW, pink bollworm, American bollworm, gulabi kid, I think is what they call it. They can destroy a crop.
Yeah.
And the agricultural research organizations suggest that one of the ways to tackle it is to catch it early, which means you need to catch it in traps. They're called pheromone traps, and they release a certain chemical. The pest gets attracted and sits inside that. The more traditional way of doing it is, while it would get trapped, then the farmer would go, and then they would take the trap out, look at it, and it'll be difficult because a lot of things are in it. It's not just the bugs, it's leaves and dirt and X and Y. And then they need to go to a local agriculture agency and tell them, see, this is what we found and what should we do, and they would give them an advice. So what we did was we had them take the photograph of the contents of the pest, of the trap, and then we were able to segregate everything else and just count those numbers, because there's something called economic threshold level. If it goes above that, you need to put a certain type of pesticide, generic pesticide. Otherwise, you just watch it, otherwise you're all set. So what would often take maybe a few days, because it would take some time for these people to get, it's a few seconds. So they take the photo, they're immediately given the advice,
Okay.
and told, you're all set. Many of them told us, we are so delighted that you thought of us. And you are taking the best technology of the world and releasing it to a set of people who are smallholder farmers, and you're releasing such advanced technologies to us. We are so excited. So there is an emotional and social interpretation that as scientists we never thought of. We never thought that that would be important. We never thought that matters of trust would be so directly challenged.
Yeah.
We would have thought, no, version 6 we will come out. No. Straight away you have to build that in. So this first season we did a few hundred, then slowly it went to 6,000. And last season we ended it with over 1 lakh farmers. It's one of the largest implementations of ground level, and it was done across 12 states. Now, very important, if you release anything in India at the social level, it has to be multilingual. You cannot even think of it otherwise. 10 languages given. Anything we do is 10 languages given.
Yes.
So those are things you learn upfront, that you don't even think of an application otherwise. And so this went in a big way. And it gave us a lot of traction. It'll probably get part of a larger initiative with the government of India. We're also adding other crops. We've done research with paddy. So that'll happen. The other interesting project we did was with PM Kisan, which is an initiative from the Prime Minister to be able to provide a certain set of funds. So there is a grievance tracking system, and now AI provides all the support for that. And that has been in place. It's now had over 2 million farmers and individuals for whom these answers have been provided. So the second area. The third area that we're working on, and we've also started pilot releasing, again this will reach big numbers, is to assist somebody called a farm technical advisory person. They get about 15, 20, 30,000 calls a day pan-India. And when the question comes, they research the answer. So we are providing the complete technology support using appropriate LLMs, etc., for them to be able to answer all these questions. So this is in pilot stage. Again, it'll go into a fairly big stage in a short period of time. We work closely with central and state governments. So that is in the agriculture space. There are other solutions, but these are some of them.
Yeah. Can you give me some insights into how are these farmers able to, use this technology or use the AI initiatives you have introduced? Because we understand most of the farmers don't have access to good internet or mobile or laptops. If that's the case, how do you solve for them?
So this is an interesting question you asked, because we used to have a definition when we released our cotton. We used to call it lead farmer versus cascade farmer. They're very nice terms. Hidden behind it is the reality. Lead farmer is a person who has a smartphone.
Okay.
Cascade farmer is a person who does not.
Yeah.
So typically, first when we did the release, we would only release it to people who had smartphones. Then we realized, boss, yes, only 1 in 5 may have, but the other people he meets in the chai shop
Yeah.
and they have normal phones. So when you find a problem in one particular field, and if we have the phone numbers of the people whose fields are nearby, notify all of them. So this is the concept of designing a solution with the constraint of realizing that not everybody needs a cell phone in order to reach everybody. You can do it in a very simple design-centric manner as long as you define the problem with clarity, saying that, look, I need to reach the maximum number of farmers, whether they have a mobile phone or not. Independent of which, even in these settings, often we take a representative farm and say 1 in 5 farms is good enough and we'll crack the rest of it. So that's that. The other thing that's taking place is as more and more information and data comes in. For instance, we have images of land from which you can analyze which crop is being grown there. We have solutions for that also. We're again working with the government to be able to release it. That adds a lot of intelligent foundational data for several uses, much of which could be insurance, money payment, a whole host of things. Today's AI is going to be this way for the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to be identifying problems, discovering problems, getting them solved, going to the very end to solve it. That's the most important. Many organizations may take the stance that, look, we'll do it up to a certain point. We do it up to the very end. And the reason we do that is a lot of the times when we trip over is not at the early stage, it is at the later stage. That's when you discover constraints and challenges that you would have never identified otherwise. Therefore, we like to experience the whole thing. We've done it in about 25 solutions across agriculture, education, and health in all 3 spaces.
Okay. So currently, which all states or regions are you focusing with the agriculture project?
In agriculture, about 14 to 15 states, and some solutions are pan-India, like the news monitoring, all of that tends to be pan-India. The rest of them tend to be in cotton growing states. So cotton growing states maybe in Gujarat, we did in Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Maharashtra, in Punjab. We have done it all over. In each of these, the way we operate is we work both with the center and state. As an NGO, as a person who belongs to a not-for-profit sector, we don't charge a rupee for any of our solutions. It is for free. We are interested where commercial organizations are interested in billions of dollars, we're interested in billions of people. That's the only change. We want to impact the lives of billions of people. Therefore, we are able to comfortably, work with the government and then work with the states.
Coming down to the healthcare sector after agriculture, I think that's the another sector where Wadhwani AI is focusing on. So can you also give me an overview on what all AI initiatives
Sure.
that work on? Because one of the things that caught my attention is smartphone technology, where is used to understand the baby's weight, which is
Yes.
very important for the
Yes.
child care. So if you can
Yes.
elaborate on that.
Yes, most certainly. So that's one of our solutions. It's the one that we have done the maximum amount of research in, because it's a difficult problem to solve. So it's called anthropometry, which is the ability to be able to take a 5-second video or a 10-second video of a baby and estimate the weight of the baby. Not just the weight, it estimates some other critical parameters for the baby. They call it length, but we would call it height. So the length of the baby,
Okay.
the head circumference, the arm circumference, and the weight. And it's a very difficult problem to solve. Recently, I think a few days ago, we submitted a technical paper in the way we solved it. It's probably won the best paper in one conference, in the leading imaging conference. In the workshop setting, it won the best paper. But that particular problem, we are in the process of rolling it out now, slowly and steadily pan-India. My goal with this particular solution is to make it available completely pan-India, because it's very exciting. The error rate is very low, and if we get more babies, the error rate will come down. That's one of the nice things about AI. And so this solution, we have started rolling it out in Daman and Diu, and we are working with other states. It's also been rolled out in pilots in many areas. This year onwards, we field, we are working with the ministry in the center and with various departments there in order to roll it out. So that's the anthropometry solution. Over and above that, we work in the TB space. It's a very important space. One of the challenges in TB is if an individual, a potential patient, comes for treatment for the very first time, it's useful to know whether that person will follow their medication or not. Because if you want to control TB, you need to be able to work with that person in a different manner, provide more attention. Because if an individual doesn't take medicines properly, two things happen. One, they tend to spread the disease a lot more. Two, their subsequent treatment tends to be more expensive. And unfortunately, fatality is also very high in that. So if you want to, and we have a national TB elimination program. The Prime Minister has announced that he would like to see India being TB Mukt by 2025. So we've been working extensively in that space. So there are various aspects that are there. One of them is when a patient comes in, you need to predict whether this person will take properly medication or not. And then the entire ecosystem that manages TB will focus on those people who may not take medicines properly because they need to manage them. We need to do vulnerability mapping. We need to know which are the pockets in India where TB will be the highest. So we do it based on a variety of demographic, socioeconomic, other information that we get in a space. One way to find out possible TB screening solution is when a person coughs. It's a very difficult solution. We have been able to solve it in what we call a facility setting, and we are in the process of solving it in the community setting. So when an individual coughs, if you know that that person may have TB, you can catch them at that. And so that's another solution that we are working on. There are other lab-oriented solutions. They have a test called line probe assay, which is a difficult interpretation sometimes on lab technicians. So we have automated that entire process. So TB is a space we're heavily involved in. Anthro, you are aware, we're also doing work in pregnancy risk stratification so that we understand when a woman is pregnant, what is the level of risk that the person is going through. We're also working on spaces with respect to, I spoke about the health news advisory, that's there. And then we have a solution which is integrated with one of the government's major platforms where we have added on two things: the ability to capture data in a very systematic manner and to provide differential diagnostics. So this is now being rolled out. In the process of being rolled out, it's already the rule-based system is rolled out pan-India. And that typically order of magnitude about 6-7 crore people use it annually. So that's a very big solution. So these are some of the things that we're doing in the health space.
So what advice you would like to give people, or do you think more people should come into this space to use technology for social good in India?
See, the number of problems that are there far exceed the expertise of organizations to be able to address it. In other words, we are not constrained by opportunity, we are constrained by our capability. Then, because AI in general is not a generic solution, it's not an infrastructure foundation solution, it is a precise solution. I will improve X to do this. A lot of people think AI is something all-encompassing. It's not. It's one problem at a time. How does it make a difference? The combined effect of multiple problems and their associated solutions using AI make a difference. Why am I saying that? Lot of the experiences of AI, again I will remind you, has been in the urbanized literate sector. For them, it's a different world. For them, if I get a sharp answer in a question in a very confined setting, whereas if you go to the social sector, the number of challenges and problems explode by 3 orders of magnitude. It could be 1,000 times more difficult than what you will face in a confined setting, because the assumptions all fall apart, especially when you go to a country as rich as India. That's the reason I would invite people to come, because a sector like this has one huge positive. You can see your work making an impact if you're good at it. And the fact of the matter is, to be really good at it, it's not that easy. A lot of people tend to be good at one thing. This is not like that. You need to be good at thinking about 8 to 10 complex matters simultaneously, which means that it puts your education to test. It puts your experience to test and your competence to test. Therefore, it's very rewarding. When you do a very good job and you're able to impact 100,000 people, you feel, no, this is nice. I helped somebody in my life. So that's the reason I would invite people to come into this space, but with the caution that it's a difficult space.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and hope to catch up with you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.